I also started to understand the cost of being that person that absorbs too much. And so inside leadership, especially small and mid-sized organizations, you can become the person who sees everything, remembers everything, anticipates everything, and quietly fills that gap. And from the outside,
Something's shifting in the nonprofit sector. Experienced professionals are done waiting for permission, and they're building consulting businesses that pay them what they're worth on their terms. This is Fracture, the podcast about the business of nonprofit fractional consulting for consultants and the people who are about to become one. I'm Cindy Wagman, founder of the Nonprofit Fractionals Network. Let's get into it. Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. This episode, we are going to be chatting a little bit about the internal shift from being in-house to consulting, because it's a bit of a mindfuck. So I really can't wait to get into this conversation. And my guest today, Molly, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Cindy. So my name is Molly Terbovich-Ridenhour, and I am someone who came into the mission-driven work through dance and the arts. And I spent a lot of my life inside nonprofit arts and culture organizations, trying to hold the creative, the human, the operational, the financial pieces together all at the same time. And professionally, I'm a former nonprofit executive and managing director, and now I run AMR, where I support small and mid-sized nonprofits through strategy, infrastructure, capacity, board engagement, fundraising, and just fractional and advisory work. And underneath the services, I think what I'm really doing is trying to be the person I wish I always had when I was leading from the inside of an organization, someone who could help sort through the complexity, name what was actually happening, and move towards something clearer and obviously more sustainable.
I love that. I think so many of us who go into consulting have that feeling of like, I wish I had this when I was doing this work, because there's a lot of examples of things that would have made our lives easier. How did you make the transition? Like what was the starting point of you saying, okay, I'm going to start consulting, and walk us through that process?
Yeah, so what kind of really brought me here is that I started thinking and really questioning the way that I had learned to work. And I was good at holding a lot, seeing the whole picture, or what I thought was the whole picture, anticipating what needed to happen, moving things forward. And those are real strengths, right? And I also started to understand the cost of being that person that absorbs too much. And so inside leadership, especially small and mid-sized organizations, you can become the person who sees everything, remembers everything, anticipates everything, and quietly fills that gap. And from the outside, that
I don't
can
know
look
what you're talking about, Molly. I've never experienced that.
not at all, right? It's like from the
Not
outside
at
that looks
all.
like
Yeah.
competence, but sometimes it's competence and sometimes it's just a pattern of overfunctioning. So it came to a point after my last in-house gig, I had to be honest that I didn't want to build the next version of myself and my work around being that person that absorbs all that pressure. And the answer was to work for myself and have more impact across the sector. So I wanted to build that work around helping organizations create that clarity, share that responsibility, build stronger systems. And I think the shift wasn't just about moving from in-house leadership to external support, but it was really about redesigning how I lead, how I hold responsibility, and that I just no longer want to feel that formal authority or that pressure that you absorb. So I wanted to release that, and yeah, so that's why I jumped ship.
I love it. And I'm definitely not feeling called out by what you just described. I'm sure most of our listeners like we are those people. And it's not just in a professional environment. Like I have been, when, someone is like looking for a volunteer for someone and everyone's quiet, I'm always the person who will raise my hand, just to be like, okay, no one's doing it. So I'll fill that in. So I definitely, and I've seen that with my clients and the people I work with, where we're used to just being the person who will step up when other people won't. And that's really hard to change. So tell me a little bit about what you experienced when you decided you were going to, I love how you said how like changing how you hold responsibility. So when you made that decision, was it straightforward? How did I'm guessing not. What was that process like? And yeah, what was easy, what was hard?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a process, and and that's why I call my work a practice, because
Mm,
it is a practice. I was always, when I was kind of naming it and trying to figure it out, it's like, this is a practice, like this is an ongoing adventure and journey. But I think, especially when resources are limited, you often learn to, again, like, move fast, fill the gaps, anticipate the needs, carry that emotional weight of the work. And those skills are really valuable, but they can become a trap when you move into consulting and fractional work too. And so I've had to really learn and really take a move back, and not not care, but I feel myself caring and wanting to, again, fill that gap and like be all the things that they need from me. And it's like, that's not where you're sitting anymore, Molly. So I think I had to learn that my value is not becoming indispensable in the same way that I may have been inside of an organization, but my value is really helping the organization get clearer and stronger and less dependent on any one person holding everything. And I can't also be that person holding
mm.
everything. And that I tend to take it on, like, oh, I can help you. I can help you do that. Oh, I can. It's like, no, like, I need to create that clarity for them instead of just being this hero coming in and saving the day.
Oh, yeah. And it feels good to be the hero, and it feels bad
Yeah,
to be the hero. Like,
exactly.
it's
Exactly.
definitely a catch-22. So tell me a little bit about how long did it take you to actually, and I'm sure it's a work in progress, but tell us about the sort of journey of stepping back from those responsibilities that are not your responsibility. Um, did you know that that would be an issue as you started consulting? When were you aware of it, or did you learn it the hard way?
I think I kind of learned it the hard way. I think I I'm still figuring it out of how to balance between being responsive and being boundaried. Like, boundaries
Mm,
is the biggest practice that I've really been focusing on, because that's something as a leader I just completely let go. And I think that's very common in nonprofit leadership, is you say you have them, but you don't actually stick to them. I was really great with my teams and helping them create boundaries, but I also wasn't always setting the best example. So between being really deeply useful and also not becoming embedded in the ways that are not sustainable for me and the client. So I'm still refining kind of how to communicate the value of, like, that strategic clarity, that capacity building and infrastructure work to organizations that may be used to thinking in terms of tasks or hours. So that's where I'm still learning how to, like, price and scope work in a way that really reflects the value of the experience and not just the time it takes to produce a deliverable. So that's something where I'm still learning to practice clarity, not just the hours. And so figuring out,
mm,
like, how long it takes to do things, because I would spend a lot more time on things that I'm billing for. And so I've learned that the hard way too, of working a lot harder than I'm getting paid for. And, I don't want to put it into a monetary sense, but it is now my job. So you have to.
Yeah, definitely the out so, I mean, the way I teach people how to run their fractional businesses, we don't bill by the hour or day or anything like that. We're not accountable for hours. And it's definitely one of the areas that organizations have to get used to. One of the members of our network just reached out because her client was like, "Can you account for the hours of like how you've been doing things?" And she's like, no, and that's not how we're structured. But even if you know that you're not accountable for hours, I do have a number of people who still will track their hours because, as you said, it's easy for us to overwork. It's
Hmm.
really easy for us to do more than what needs to get done. And so it's their way of staying accountable to themselves.
Hmm.
Um, I'd love to spend a little more time about talking about boundaries because I think that it's one of those terms that can feel like, oh, yeah, we all talk about boundaries, but we need to get a little more specific. So, can you give some examples of boundaries that you've had to learn that you
Yeah.
like, not that you've had to learn, but that you've had to learn are important to how you run your business?
I mean, I think the biggest boundary of all is time,
Mm,
and just the reason, one of the main reasons why I became self-employed and started this new adventure was to have my time back. And
mm,
I didn't realize how much of that time was taken for other people and for another mission and another impact. And it was taking away from my own personal mission and impact. And so, really being conscious about building those boundaries around time. How much time do I want to spend on this? How much time do I want to spend away from this? And sticking to that and creating just that structure of my day and structure of time and something as specific as my calendar and what's available to people other than myself to schedule time with me. So just being very conscious about time, and that alone will help you create those boundaries because it
mm,
creates that structure within your day, within your week, within your month. I made a conscious decision I'm not working on Fridays because why do I need a 5-day work week? There's only a reason because I've always had a 5-day work week, but now it's my decision. So I don't work Fridays. So, and I only have window time of meeting time because I don't want to have meetings all day long. And so yeah, I think that's the key boundary that I would recommend is really creating boundaries around your time because that
mm.
I think that defines everything is your time.
Okay, I want to come back to this because I want to get into some specifics. But before we
Right.
do, it sounds like the time is actually how you've made yourself available or how you do a little bit more, which I think is such an important distinction in that our client, like nonprofits, they're always going to ask for more. We literally train them to ask for more,
Mhm.
but oftentimes we don't even have to wait to be asked. We're like volunteering to go above and
Yeah.
beyond. So, what was the mindset shift for you to be like, wait, this is enough? What I'm doing is enough, and I don't have to overcommit on hours. I don't have to go above me. Like, they're not asking you to put in the extra hours. You're just
Mhm.
like, I'm going to
I'm
do
just
these
doing it.
things.
Yeah.
So, how did you come to kind of sit with the enoughness of, you know, your work?
I mean, I think I came to it probably with my first couple clients because I did
Mm,
find myself sitting at the computer all day long, and I came out of that going, "What are you doing? Like, this is where you were trying to escape." So I think what became clear for me is really defining scope, really defining communication rhythms, um, and just being really clear with clients also of like what my availability was.
mm,
Yeah, I think it also means like just recognizing that every client's urgency cannot become my operating rhythm, and just being aware of that, and just, but again, it's a constant practice because I get excited. I mean, now that I'm on the other side of things, I don't have that responsibility. I just get to like support and help and do essentially all the things that I enjoyed doing as a leader, but I
Mhm.
don't have that responsibility now. So I get excited about the work.
Yeah.
I'm not burnt out like I was before, but I know that they are, so I want to be there for them. So it is a constant practice. So I, again, like, if they come back to me and they need more and they want more, but they can't afford more, don't have capacity for more, then I have to make sure that I'm telling myself that I need to be clear about the scope. And so I'm not over giving of myself and my time.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that piece around being excited is sometimes also, again, kind of like a double-edged sword where when we in some cases, we actually don't want to move too quickly with organizations, right? Meaningful change usually requires time to sink in. And sometimes if we move too quickly, we're actually disrupting too much with organizations and they can't manage it. So it's sort of that like, yeah, people are impatient. We want to do the things, but also some things actually require building buy-in or, changing how people work, changing culture. And so speed is not always the best. I Have you experienced times where it's just been like, oh, the client's not there yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I think another like hard lesson I think is that if you're not careful, you know, I've definitely gotten pulled into solving like what the visible problem is when there's definitely a deeper problem
Mm,
that is there that you want to address, but that's not why they brought you in, but you know deep down that like if you don't fix this other issue that has arisen, this is not going to solve the problem. So it's like the pattern is organizations come in asking for help with a visible thing, but underneath that problem, it's usually capacity, it's usually decision making, it's usually a board engagement situation, infrastructure issue. So I think it's knowing how to have those transparent conversations. And so that's why I like to start with, even if they don't bring me in for a discovery audit, I always implement some of that work just to have those conversations, just so I can get to know the organization and know how to move forward with what often is a fragile system. And so you really want to be there to support that. So that's where
mm.
it's hard when they're like, "Oh, we need this." And you get there and you're
You're
like,
like, no, you
"You
don't.
do, but we need to do this and this and
Yeah.
this before this." And lately, I think I've had clients that are open to that, but then there's some that are just hard pressed. It's like, "No, the board has approved for me to do this, and this is what I need help with." So I have to
Yeah.
make sure that I have to keep those boundaries to say, "Okay, this is what we're focusing on," even though my brain is thinking of all these other things that I could support them in making that issue or that solution even stronger.
Yeah. I often think with fractional consulting compared to other types of consulting that um, reality, I guess, or idea of you're coming in, an organization thinks they want A, but they really need X.
Yeah.
And it's finding the balance between, um, not ignoring A, but bringing them along to understand more deeply that X is the real thing. So, yeah, that's not easy, but especially again with that longevity of fractional work, I
Yeah.
think really dealing with that up front and things come up over time, that's the other thing with fractional is like sometimes uh you don't discover these things until you're like 3 months in. You're like, oh, why did no one tell me that right off the bat? So a little flexibility is always good.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I want to ask you, you mentioned like sitting at your desk and you don't want to be sitting at your desk. And that actually really resonates with me right now. I have someone in my life who um, is old and aging and is very much tied to their desk. And I look at it and I said, or I'm thinking like, I can't have that be my only hobby when I get to the point of retirement. Because right now I feel like work is a hobby. Like I enjoy sitting at my desk and
Nice.
doing work and doing all these things. So, what else what are you, moving away from your desk towards? What are the other things that are keeping you busy and, having fun with right now?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, not a lot, but I consciously, again, when I add things, I'm a very structured calendar planner. And so I put like workouts in my calendar. That's how
Mm,
structured I am. But
same.
I have a recurring roller skating date with a good friend of mine. Every Wednesday, we go roller skating at 10 o'clock on Wednesdays. And that's just, it's in there like a meeting. So it's blocked off on my calendar. It will be there as long as we can make that time happen. And so that's saying something that started, and we just made a commitment to say, let's keep this happening even if work gets busy. Like, this is a recurring meeting that we have. It's important to our mind, it's important to our bodies, it's important for us to be away from the screen. And occasionally we'll both kind of have a rough week, and we'll kind of ping each other and say, hey, do you want to add another day, because I need to get away from the screen. And so we
Mm.
consciously just make it about, and it gets us out of the house. You know, we can't roller skate inside. So, and fortunately, we live in beautiful San Diego, California, so we can skate almost every day.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, so that's one thing that's been ongoing for quite some time. Again, I love to be in the sun, so I make breaks, and I'm not as good as I should be. I sit at a window, so I stare at the sun all day, but I try to make conscious breaks of like, get up and go outside. And we also have a 9-month-old puppy that will force me to get outside and go for a
Oh,
walk.
cute.
So yeah, I think again that's a practice too, because I also enjoy the work. I love working. My partner always says like, you're going to work through retirement. I said, yeah, because I like what I do. He's like, you love work too much. I'm like, well, I don't know about that, but I do love what I do. And I'm happy that I can say that I genuinely love the work that I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, which again, it's that deadly combination of we love what we do, we're the people who always step up and volunteer. It makes
Yeah,
those boundaries even more important.
exactly.
Um, let's do talk a little bit about how you manage your calendar because I think
Mm,
sometimes we talk about these ideas and they're, great in theory, but sometimes people are like, wait, I've never done that before. How do I actually do that? How do you structure your calendar and manage your availability?
it's a great question. I mean, I think I start with plugging in I mean, everything goes in the calendar. So if it's not there, I'll forget or it won't
Yeah.
happen. So, um, I guess being an artist too, my calendar is very color coordinated, so it's exciting to look at. And so when I look at something, I know exactly, like, if it's a vacation, it's pink. If it's a
Mm.
fun outing with friends, it's purple. If it's a work meeting, but it's an in-person meeting, it's a certain, I mean, for me, that's just the way that my brain works. And so I make it fun to look at. It's something that I get excited about going to. And again, like, I put my workouts in there because I want to make sure that's important to me. So they're in my calendar, and they're structured in a way that they are flexible, that they get moved. If someone's like, hey, can we have coffee today? I was like, and I look and I'm like, ooh, that's when I was gonna go ride. It's like, but I can move that, but it still gets moved on that day. Like, I still
Yeah.
make sure that that is priority for me and my mind and my body. So it doesn't get moved. So you want to make a conscious effort to plug in the things that are important to you. and let that be your priority over your work if you can. Again, that's something that you can't always control. And there are times that, I'm on the West Coast, and so I know my hourly doesn't always mesh with East Coast, and so that requires flexibility. So if they can't meet until a later time, and I've structured my meeting availability between this time on these 4 days of the week, and they absolutely can't meet until Friday, then I'll see what's happening, and I can be flexible, but again, I build those blocks out so it allows for that time and keeps those time boundaries. But yeah, I plug in everything that I
Mm,
can just so it's there. And I mean, my roller skating's in there. It's block time. You can't schedule meetings during that time. Um, so yeah, I think
yeah.
again, for me, and if you have the privilege of creating your own calendar, making sure that you plug in what's important to you first and
Yeah.
holding that time for yourself, because otherwise it'll disappear really fast if you put
So
other people in front of you. Yeah.
it reminds me of that. I feel like we learned this in like elementary school or something, where maybe high school. This, I guess, like a parable of like the class where the teachers, gives them a jar with rocks and pebbles and sand. And it's like, fill
Yeah.
it. And if you put the sand, the little things in first, there's no room for the big things. So you have to put the big things in first and then gradually add the smaller and smaller things. And it's kind of like that, right? Which is prioritize the important things. Those are your big rocks that are less you're less inclined to move. And then you can play around with the little stuff. Um,
Yeah. I love that.
how does it feel to tell someone you're not available right away? Like if someone's asking for a meeting, I'm like, "Oh, you free tomorrow?" Do you have to are I'm assuming there are going to be times where you're like, "Actually, my next availability is a week from
Yeah.
now," or what have you.
It's it's getting easier, but at first it was really hard because it was really hard. Like I look at my calendar, I'm like, technically I'm available. But it's been in practice of like, no, Molly, you put that there for a reason, and you're not going to be happy in that meeting. You're not going to come to that meeting and be present because you know what you could have been doing. And so patience is definitely a practice for me, because I'm like, ooh, the sooner I meet, the sooner we can get working, the sooner we can get going, the sooner I get paid. And it's like, and be patient. Like, you have to take care of yourself. Like, this is why you're here. Like, you gave too much of yourself before and you ended up in a very dark place. So we don't want to go back there. So yeah, so it's gotten easier where I've let things sit for a day or two and let meetings get pushed. But it was definitely not easy at first because I,
Mm,
again, like I was always filling that gap. Like, oh, I have the time. Yeah, let's meet. It's like, no, you don't have that time. Like, you put that time in there for a purpose. You need to
yeah.
stick to it. Yeah.
As a result, do you feel like you've lost business or, pissed people off or anything like that?
No. Even though there's a
That's
fear
what I
of it,
thought you were going to say, but
absolutely not. Like, again, like that's a narrative that I'm telling myself. It has
Mhm.
nothing to like, they don't have that expectation unless they're
Yeah.
very clear in communicating that.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's the narrative that I've created for myself, and it's
Yeah.
never come true.
That's it. Yeah. And we're working with nonprofits. In my experience, they sometimes take months to confirm working together. It's usually not
Yeah.
days. Um, I often when I share, so I use Calendly, but a lot of
Hmm.
folks in our network use other tools so I can send people, oh, just book a time here. And I usually just say, like, I know my availability looks limited. So if it's urgent and you can't find a time, just let me know. No one's ever asked for something more more urgent. So yeah. I love that it's so much the story we're telling ourselves and
Mhm.
not the story that our potential clients are living.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I'm even someone that I'll go ahead and schedule something that week and they come back to me and they're like, "Oh, actually, I need a couple weeks." It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay. I got it. I got it." Like I am moving too fast.
Yeah. Which is generally we are more excited and or we need money, right? We're doing business development. That's our income. And so
Yeah.
I'd love for you to share a little bit about even letting go of that process of, letting go of the urgency of feeling, because I think that happens a lot for folks, especially early on in consulting, where they're like, I need to get paid, I need to do this. And that's not always the timeline of our clients. So, what's that been like?
It's been hard. I mean, in full transparency, like it's not easy. Like it's going from that consistency of, a biweekly paycheck to knowing somewhat what your day is going to be every day, which I've grown to kind of like that of like, what are you going to do today? Not sure. Haven't figured it out yet. Um, but yeah, I think it's an ongoing struggle of kind of knowing what's next and carrying that weight. But it's also, I try to think of it of, I'm on this journey, I'm on this adventure, like I'm got to be open to possibility and not know what's coming next, and just always believe, and I'll give credit to my partner, like it's all going to be okay, it's all
Mm,
going to work out. And so I have to kind of tell myself that every day when I get into it of like, oof, I need another client or I need to finish this project so I can move on to the next. It's like, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to
mm.
work out. And it's going to be an adventure getting there for sure.
Absolutely. All right. I want to wrap up with, you mentioned that this is the practice, that this is, something that is living and breathing and ongoing. Um, what's one thing you're working on right now with your own practice of either boundaries or patience or trusting the universe? What is it these days?
I mean, I think it's really thinking about the opportunity to just build something different.
Hmm.
Because I've given myself that opportunity to kind of reframe who I am and what I do. It's not just a different job title, but a different way of working, and where, my experience is valuable, my boundaries are almost clear, and, my work is tied to outcomes, but it's businesses are really, I'm trying to really support businesses to build that sustainability rather than self-sacrifice. And so I have to
Hmm.
live that life too. If that's what I'm doing for clients, like I have to be that example. So I'm still that leader that I've always been, but I think the goal is to, not encounter that burnout feel, and making sure that I'm aware of that, because again, like that's where I'm trying to keep my clients out of. And so making sure that I'm not just rebuilding my business that I've always done under another name.
Yeah.
I'm recreating what I'm doing and what I'm offering the sector. Um, so yeah, I think it's living and breathing my own values that I'm putting on to others.
Definitely easier said than done. Um, Molly, thank you so much for sharing. Where can our
Yeah.
listeners find you online?
Yeah, so of course I'm on LinkedIn, Molly Terbovich-Ridenhour, and my website is mollyterbovich.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Fracture. Subscribe wherever you're listening and come find me at nonprofitfractional.com/subscribe for more of this goodness in your inbox every week. Now go build something better.